Good afternoon, friends. Well, today's the day I want to talk about obtaining a title on a vehicle, or a Harley, I should say, when you didn't get one from the seller. This is something I've been working on for a little while here, and I had to get all the ins and outs done to see if this would actually work. There's a little legwork done on this to make sure that you could, go through the same processes that I have to be able to obtain a title. Now, I don't know if this is how it works in every state, but I know that this is how it works in the state of Michigan. I'm going to assume that it's going to work similarly in most states, but I'm sure there's parameters in all states where this doesn't actually work. So, the place we need to start with is you've bought a bike. You guys have seen the barn find job that I got here. And before you purchase the bike, you've run the VIN. Now, I've done that, and I've got it saved on my phone here, and I'll show you what that looks like. Hopefully that shows up real well on the camera. As you can see, it says VIN check theft record. That checks and says that it's good there. And VIN check total loss record. That says it's good as well. What I like to do is I like to screenshot this. That way it shows the date that I ran the VIN, just in case something weird goes awry after you've bought the bike. Maybe you buy the bike from the person. They know they're going to run some sort of scam. They report it as stolen. Then it's in the system. They're doing an insurance fraud deal. You never know. Things happen. People are nuts. Don't take the risk. That way you run the VIN check, you screenshot when you did it, it'll show the time, and of course in the notes it'll show the date and all that good stuff so you can see that it's actually been done. After doing that, the next step is going to be having the seller write you a bill of sale. Make sure on the bill of sale you have their name, date, their address, the motorcycle year, the VIN number, the price you paid for it, and all of that information. That way you have a good bill of sale saying you bought it from, let's say, Joe Smith at 123 Applewood Court, Muskegon, Michigan, 49441 on the date of 4/1/2025 for an amount of whatever amount, let's say $2,000. That's what you paid for it. Make sure that's all documented on the form that you're getting as far as a handwritten receipt. Have them date it and sign it. I like to have two copies done. That way they can keep one copy. I can keep one copy. I sign this the same. They sign it and I sign it. That shows that I'm buying it, that they've sold it to me in case they need it for their records. Some people do want that. Some people don't. Often I have found that folks don't really care if they have a receipt saying that I bought the bike or not. But I like to have the paper trail just in case. So now that you have the bill of sale and you have the bike, your next step is going to be obtaining a title bond or a bonded title. I'm not sure what they call them in each location. Now, I use State Farm as an insurance company, so I go through State Farm for the title bonds. You'll pay an amount for the title bond based on the value of the motorcycle. And you can look it up on Kelley Blue Book. You'll assess the average for it, if it's fair, good, poor, excellent, or whatever the four parameters are. And that will insure that bike for that amount. So that bike there, I went with a middle ground, and I insured it for $8,500 or $8,750 or whatnot. I think it was $87 and change. What that does is, if for some reason that bike is stolen or something comes around or whatnot, that will pay you back that amount of money for that bike. Well, you'll give the bike back obviously to the original owner. You'll be then paid back for the amount that you've insured it for, you've bonded the title for. And that gives you a little bit of peace of mind. That way if something weird's going to happen, somebody sees that thing on the road and says, hey, oh my gosh, that bike was stolen 10 years ago, it's mine. I have insurance documentation or whatnot to say that it was stolen, but the claim didn't get filed or whatever happened. The NICB would have that already, unless someone dropped the ball, which could happen. That'd be a fluke in my opinion. I have not run into an issue where that's ever come back as a stolen bike, a lost bike, a misplaced something. But it's one of the steps that you have to take. You have to get that title bond. Once you have the title bond, that takes a couple of weeks to get done through the insurance agency. Like I said, I go through State Farm for that. There's other insurance agencies that do the same process. I've looked them up. I don't have them all. You can do a quick Google search and see who does title bonds, and they'll run you through their process. For that bond, I believe it cost me $100. They do vary on a price based on the value of the motorcycle itself or the car or whatever. I'm just talking motorcycles at this point because this is the only thing I've done them on, and this is the only thing I'm versed in. Once you have the title bond, you'll then make an appointment with the Secretary of State if you wish. You can also download the forms. It does help to go into the Secretary of State and kind of get a feeling for what they're going to put you through as far as the hoops that you're going to need to jump through in order to obtain a title. I know that there is a value threshold that they have that they will not tell you on a motorcycle that could determine whether it needs to be appraised or not. This bike obviously did not need to be appraised, but I do have the forms that you will get from them that you'll have to have filled out, and I'll show you those now. The first form you'll have is the Certificate of Ownership. This is form number TR205. Again, this is a Secretary of State of Michigan form. What this does is this gives you, put your name on here, the year, the make, the model, the body style, if it's an FL, FX, whatnot, VIN number. If it's a vehicle, snowmobile, watercraft, ORV, they're doing motorcycles as vehicles. Kind of strange, I know. What is the value of it? They told me to put the value that I paid here. So then you put the value that you paid here. Where did you get it from? This is why you would need the bill of sale with that person's address. You'll say, Joe Smith, 123 Apple Court. Name of person, obviously Joe Smith. How you acquired it. I purchased it from them. They also ask, why did they not have a title? Maybe they lost it. Maybe they never titled it in their name. Maybe it's their dad's, and their dad's title was missing after their dad passed away or something like that. I wouldn't necessarily say that they didn't title it in their name, because they'll get you for title jumping, and that becomes an issue, and then they'll want that person to come into the Secretary of State. So I try to stay away from that. Typically, the reason why a person doesn't have a title is because they purchased it without a title. You see that a lot. I mean, I've run into, I don't know how many motorcycles that I've bought in the past where, a person bought it with the hopes and dreams of they're going to build this thing and make it into whatever, and then they put it in the barn or the corner of their garage or wherever, and they never touch it again. They don't look at it. So they never got a title because they didn't do the work on it, or they didn't know how to obtain a title, because there are a lot of hoops to jump through. One of the other forms you'll need is the vehicle inspection and equipment, vehicle number and equipment inspection form. This is form number TR54, and you'll only be dealing with the top portion here to obtain a title. This is if you're actually registering the motorcycle for the road, where you'll need a different inspection. This top part here requires a police officer to come and inspect the motorcycle that you have. And what they're going to do is they're going to match the VIN number with your bill of sale and with your forms. So they'll check and make sure that the VINs match. They'll actually look up the VIN number themselves, because they can research it as well to make sure it's not stolen. So they'll do that. They'll fill out their portion of the form here, and they'll hand it back to you. Now, obviously, if something comes up and it's stolen, you're going to run through different hoops then. They're going to seize the motorcycle at that point in time. I have not run into that ever, thankfully. I've always had good documentation showing how I obtained the motorcycle, where it came from, who sold it to me, what their address is, all the things to keep me safe. So once you have the officer's signature on the TR54, and you filled out the TR205, and you have your title bond, and you have your bill of sale, you'll make your next appointment with the Secretary of State. Now, with the Secretary of State, it's going to go something like this. They're going to take, obviously, your ID. They're going to take all of these forms that you filled out, and they're going to start plunking this into the computer. They're going to ask you kind of the same questions to make sure what you stated on the form is actually what you're committing to. Where did you get the bike? How did you obtain it? Why didn't they have a title? Those types of things. Once they've kind of ran through their questions, what they're going to do then is they're going to charge you for a transfer title, and the fee based on the value of the bike is going to be based off of what the bond amount is, not what you paid for it. Now, I know that kind of stinks, because if you paid $200 for the bike, $2,000 for the bike, and it but you bonded it for $8,500, you will pay sales tax based on the $8,500. I don't love that part. The state, of course, then is making more money on something, not money based on what you spent, but that's how they make you do it. So unfortunately, it can get a little costly when you're actually going through the process of, bonding one of these things or titling a bike without a title. All said and done, you've paid your title transfer fee, title amount, taxes, title bond. I think that's it. And you're going to spend a few $100s doing that. After you've done that, you leave the Secretary of State and you go about your day. And in a few weeks, you'll obtain an actual clear, regular, ours are green title in your name with a vehicle identification number on it. It's a clean title. It's ready to do whatever with. So that way, when you get the bike on the road and it's all ready and set to go, you can actually take that title back in. You can take that with your insurance and you can obtain a license plate with that. Or if you decide to sell the motorcycle, you can sell it with a clean title. They advise that you don't sell them right away because they worry about, if this could be an insurance scam or some fraud could be going on. They get a little leery about those types of things. Typically, when you're buying a motorcycle like this without a title, you're planning on keeping it, you're planning on doing something with it, so you're not really worried about selling it right away, hopefully. And if you are, then be prepared to jump through some more hoops to do that, because they're going to get leery about, why are you selling this already? You just obtained title, you just did all this work, why are you selling it? They may ask, they may not ask. I have not had an issue ever, and I'm grateful for that, and I hope that I never do. But I don't typically sell things fast enough. Typically what I do is I obtain title on them, and the last thing to go, if I part a bike out, is the frame. So the frame and the title is the last thing that I sell. Or on a project like that, if I want to get it running and riding, I'll run through all the processes to make sure the bike is ready to be on the road. So if it needs new tires and brakes and, the whole things, oil changes and all that, it'll be a project. And of course I'll film it and you guys will see it. And then that way, when it's all done, it's a video series and I have a title, and then I can sell it to the next owner. I hope this has been a little bit helpful for you guys. I know obtaining a title can be a little frustrating and scary because there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to it. And I will say that there are certain Secretary of State offices that are better with this than others. Some are more versed in it, some are not. I'm sure you all know which offices you prefer as opposed to which ones you don't. I'm not going to say anything ill about any of the offices around here, which ones I like and which ones I don't. I do have my preferences because I do have people that I like dealing with, and I have people in other offices that I don't. They sometimes will treat this like it's too much work and they won't want to take care of you. It's some of the hoops you're going to have to jump through when it comes to doing this type of thing, but it is obtainable. It is something that you can do. I wanted to wait to make this video because I wanted to make sure I could actually do this. This is stuff that I've researched for a little while. I've read online and I've asked a lot of questions, and this is my first one going this route. It's changed a lot over the years. Back so many years ago, you used to be able to take in the bill of sale and obtain title on bill of sale. Then it changed to where you needed title bonds. You go in with title bond and bill of sale. And now it's title bond, bill of sale, certificate of ownership, and inspection based on, police officer inspection, or could be an appraisal, like a full-on actual appraisal company will have to appraise the motorcycle to give it a value to see what it's worth. If you go that route, or if you have to go that route, they will charge you sales tax based on the appraised value, not the insured bonded value. So you're going to run into some hoops there too to jump through. Not fun, but if you're buying an old panhead that's been sitting in someone's barn and you got a great deal on it and it's worth more than what they're selling it to you for, and you just need a title, in my opinion, it's worth it. I would definitely do it. I would jump through the hoops to make sure that happened. And I have on some of my old bikes. Some of my old vintage bikes, I've gone through jumping through the hoops to obtain them. Now, if you want to circumvent this and not do any of these things, again, I highly recommend St. Title Service. I'll put their link in the description below. It's a quicker and easier process. When everything is all said and done with them, you obtain a transferable title. It is in their company's name. You will then take it to your Secretary of State. Just like you purchased the motorcycle, you will pay tax on the value, of course, of that. They'll transfer your title. You'll pay the title transfer fee and all the things just like you were buying a regular motorcycle from anyone. So it's a little easier. It is more costly. But if you attribute time to value or cost of time to value, then if you're looking for something faster, while it costs more money up front, it saves you a ton of time on the back end. So you have to look at, what is your time really worth? Well, friends, I hope this answers some questions for you on how to obtain a title when you don't get one on a motorcycle that you purchased. If it doesn't and it leaves you lost, please feel free to drop a comment below. Ask me questions. I will answer them to the best of my ability. Obviously, I am not a lawyer. I do not practice law. I don't know all the rules. I don't know exactly how all this works. Just know what I know from doing this last time and how well it has worked for me. And I wanted to make sure that I could help you guys figure this out as well, because I know there's a lot of motorcycles out there that don't have titles. And I know that could be a huge deterrent for a lot of folks to buying one. There's some great deals that can be had. And sometimes, I've met friends in the past who are like, oh, I'm not buying that. I know it's cheap, but I'm not buying it without a title. And I get why there is a hesitance to not want to buy something without a title because it could be stolen. But if you do your work, your homework, and you check it, and you see that it's not stolen, now you're just one step safer and one step closer to buying this bike and obtaining a title. Well, friends, I hope this was helpful. I thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. If you have any questions or comments, drop the comments below. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate, upping my subscriptions. I know I've gained a few more since the last video, and I'm very appreciative of that. I'm hoping to push this channel as far as I can push it and, have as many people subscribe as possible. So I just want to say that I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you next time.